historic racing scene comes with many things, including a glimpse of an icon and a whiff of nostalgia, as many of us think back to the first car we ever fell in love with. But at times, as we get caught up in the past, we tend to forget just what these cars were truly built for. At a recent track day hosted by The Times, a team of historic racers set out to show some lucky readers just what these old ladies were packing. Spoiled for choice, The Times winners had a bevy of beauties to choose from, but there was one particular muscle car that seemed to attract more attention than most.
Sugar!
Ah, the Mustang. The car that epitomizes the American muscle scene. A film icon and a petrolhead's dream. It's simply put just one of those cars that no matter where it goes, invokes passion. Just look at what Eleanor, a 1967 Mustang, did for the movie Gone in 60 Seconds. And just look at what Thomas Falkiner's modified Ford Shelby Mustang did for some of the Times readers.
Shelby Mustang 65, you said I could swear. Amazing. It was absolutely awesome. Dream car, wonderful.
I used to race back in the 60s, and it's not a car I ever drove, but a friend of mine had one of those cars, and I've always basically enjoyed that sort of V8 grunt, if they call it that, the great performance.
Just love the cars, enjoyed, and my brother-in-law's bought and sold a few, but we only cruise in them. We don't drive Thomas's speed.
It was absolutely amazing. I'm totally traumatized. I'm shaking, but it was absolutely amazing.
Now this is a film prop. This is the quintessential performance Mustang, and it's carried local journo and historic racing driver Thomas Falkiner into an explosive debut season on the track. Much like its famous logo, this car is packing a couple of horses.
It's a 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback, which we've built to look like a GT350 replica. Comes loaded with a 5.7 litre Ford Racing crate engine, which is kicking out about 480 horsepower. And we've done a whole lot of suspension tweaks to it. It's got adjustable conies up in the front and an anti-tramp bar in the rear, which helps with axle hop. So yeah, it's a well-sorted machine. It's great fun to drive. You know, I drive a lot of new cars, and this Mustang we have is really good. I mean, it's got a lot of feedback. It's incredibly powerful, and really it's quite nimble. You know, through sort of corners and hairpins. It's a very satisfying car to drive.
The next homegrown honey is truly one of a kind. Made in South Africa for the track, it's a BMW 7 Series racing car with a pretty impressive history.
The BMW is the only one in the world. It's a 7 Series, built by BMW South Africa in 1984-85. Raced then by BMW's official driver, Tony Viana, the late Tony Viana, and I should say the late great Tony Viana, because he has a fantastic South African history in racing with BMW, and this car won the South African Championship with Tony behind the wheel in 1985. It only raced a year because BMW decided that 7 Series cars were not for racing. It's a bit of a bust, so I can understand that, but it's lovely to drive. It's Group 1 spec, so Group 1 was the category in 1985. The equivalent today is production cars. So it's cars that you could almost take off the showroom floor, bring them onto the racetrack and drive them. The difference here is that this car has the same wheels but different tyres. They're racing tyres, and the engine has been tuned quite extensively. So that's basically it. Otherwise it's a standard 745. It weighs 1.5 kilos. And the tyres take a lot of strain.
This little Toyota Tazz rally car might not have the iconic status that the Mustang has or the history of the BMW, but it certainly has the moves, and most of it most definitely does not come standard.
When Toyota designed this car, they designed a really good back suspension for the car. If you look at a Tazz compared to modern cars, it's very low, very wide. it makes a very good rally car. It has a 20-valve Corolla engine in it, which is a 1600cc, but this one makes over 200 horsepower, revs to 9,000 RPM. Modified to the same degree that Toyota Motorsport built these engines about 10 years ago when Serge Damso was rallying cars like this. It's the same kind of spec. Lot of trick parts inside this engine to be able to make it rev the way it does and be reliable over a rally, which is far more punishing on a car than circuit racing tends to be. I think everybody's got a big smile on their face. They couldn't think that a Taz could go this fast.
Only 3 of the 10 times winners were in for a surprise at the end of the day, as they won a ride in a very rare and special car. A 1960 Ferrari 250 GTM. Yes, a 1960 Ferrari 250 GTM. Need we say more?
This is the only one in the country. It's a rebody of a 250 GTE. In the 60s, Ferrari was starting to emerge as a motor manufacturer, and they produced GT cars. And in order to sell the cars during the week, they raced them on the weekend. And the GT series, particularly at Le Mans and around Europe, the Tour de France, the Goodwood races, all very important races for Ferrari. And the 250 GT that we have here is from that era and is one of the types of cars that made Ferrari famous, not only on the circuits, but also as a motor manufacturer.
And for all of you out there who think this particular model should be in a museum, think again.
Cars don't belong in museums. Cars are being built to drive, and this is the museum, and I can't think of a better place in Zwartkops to show these cars off. I've owned this car now for 3, maybe 4 years. I've driven it quite a lot. Every time I sit in the car, it's a fantastic experience. The sound, the brakes, the engine. It's a 3-liter V12. It revs to almost 10,000 revs. It's a 1961 built engine and manufactured engine, so it's just amazing that a car that is more than 40 years old can go as fast as this car does, stop and handle the way it does.
If Mustangs, Ferraris and BMWs aren't your thing, which we don't really understand, but anyway, make sure to keep an eye on the Historic Racing Register for the next track event happening in your area, because there is sure to be at least one model that pulls at your heartstrings.